Very good. Okay, another question. Oh yes, the gentleman way back over the balcony there. You've got a microphone, great.
Thank you. Chris Nunn from Norman Young. Questions for Ann-Kristin, primarily about the funding mechanism that you described, the 200 million plus 200 million euros coming up with the cash to produce the 60 million capital investment required for the development you spoke. I wonder if you can expand on that, and maybe if the other speakers could talk about other innovative finance mechanisms that they've seen around the world to come up with these regeneration funds.
Mm-hmm. Well, the idea is that you, in Sweden and in many cities in Europe, you have social investment funds and you have funds for urban development projects and so on, and you never mix these. But that is the idea from the city of Malmö. So you consider what costs do you have due to the low employment rate and for these people not being involved in our society, and can you make like a big fund for cities or even more cities, regions, and you have money from the cities, from the government, from perhaps European Investment Bank, and you involve the developers, the property owners. Can they invest and can they employ people from the area so that you reduce the costs for the social costs for the city? And also to use, we have some structural funds from EU and so on. So I think in Sweden we look at it in a too short perspective, but by having these funds you can think about how do you save money in the end if you do it in a better way from the beginning.
Thank you. Would others like to pick up on that question?
Maybe not a fund, but what I've seen in a couple of the energy centers that I've looked at are really innovative ways to incentivize the local precinct community to use their energy at certain times. So the energy center engages the local residents to do their dishes or their laundry after midnight by equipping them with the right washing machines and things like that, and therefore give people who do that a rebate, and that allows the energy center then to sell the peak energy, say from 8 in the evening to midnight. So it's just interesting ways that you can influence behavior and create different financial outcomes when you're dealing on a precinct level like that.
Okay. Another question. Yeah, gentleman down here.
Thank you. Ben Thomas from the Better Buildings Partnership. To connect a couple of themes together that have come across the course of the day, we learned from the last session that values inform government and proactive action on climate change. We also know from sociology and psychology studies that behaviors are what inform our values. If we know that buildings are for people, and people is an underpinning theme of everything that we've been doing and everything we do within our industry, then how can owners, designers, managers of buildings collaborate with the people within those buildings that they serve to help to empower better behavior change? I'm interested in one of Kent's slides today that he spent about 5 seconds on because it was that quick gushing of ideas on the 35% energy savings and through behavior change and prompts. What is something that we can do sitting at these tables when we leave here to prompt better behavior?
Good question. Ken, do you want to kick off?
Well, it's a very complicated issue, behavior change. I think first of all you have to create situations where people would benefit by acting in a different way. Create incentives, but that alone is usually not enough. So then I think you have to go through a process of persuasion. We have this notion of persuasive interfaces. the stair study I showed, that went by very quickly, but that was actually, we spent a long time trying to figure out how could we design an experiment where we could get huge amounts of data, allowing us in a very controlled way to manipulate the messages to see if we could get people to take the stair. That was really what that was about. So we could project different graphics. We could use animation, we could use humor, we could track the impact of the message before and after it was shown. We could look at it weekday, weekends, morning, night, etc. And we found that we could actually have an impact on behavior. I think you can do that in buildings if you give people the right message at the right time and the right place to make them aware that some action would actually be in their self-interest. But it's a very complicated thing to do. I think behavior changes very slowly over time.
Mm. Adam, is this something that you were referring to, employing people as I can't remember if green concierge was a term you used or one that I've just, as it were, put in your mouth, but the idea of embedding resources within a community to continue to encourage sustainable behaviours, I guess.
Yeah, that was the EcoDistrict coordinator out at
right.
Lloyd, and there's many more of those popping in Ottawa. You know, we're finding districts that are employing people to help them with this. On the behaviour change thing in particular, there's a fascinating little initiative coming out of a guy called Greg Searle, who's a North American coordinator for Bioregional, who's developed the Eco-Concierge concept. He's run the numbers very quickly, just by having someone dedicated. So you want to blend it with lifestyle, right? You don't want it to be hard, right? So imagine the Eco-Concierge down at the entry to the apartment building, you know, who helps people in their daily lives, you know, do this eco stuff. He's run the numbers just simply by the Eco-Concierge keeping the tenants' tyres inflated to the right PSI pays for that person for 18 months alone. So we just got to think about things differently. It's got to be easy, you know what I mean? Not hard. It's just got to be easy. It's got to blend with lifestyle. And we're looking to pilot that in the coming 18 months. So it's an exciting concept. So I'm happy to hand that over for folks to steal in the spirit of what this session is about.
Very good. Sure.
I think I'm a designer, so I like to come back to how design can change people's behavior. I think sometimes we just really have to come back to the simple principles. I like to use a case. I have designed a city or a district called Fort Bonifacio, if you're familiar with the Philippines. That's a new kind of a district. I did that design about 19 years ago, and then through 4 or 5 years, we did master plan, land use plan, urban design guideline, landscape master plan, landscape details. I haven't been back for almost 10 years. And then a couple weeks ago, I was there. I was very, very pleased of the result because if you understand, the developing countries actually, in order to modernize the city, they really designed the place for cars rather than people. They're really not paying extra attention to the human scale or for the pedestrian environment, you know. And then, but now, and when I was 19 years later, I was in Fort Bonifacio. It's very simple. You just create a proper sidewalk, the street not too wide. You know, people can have a proper cross street, and then the street with the shades, and then some arcades, you know, and then people feel very comfortably walking along the street rather than they feel there's no dignity, you know, when they're fighting with the cars. And then when I was walking along the street, the car stopped, you know, for me to cross the street twice, not only once. I mean, it's very easy. You probably feel Melbourne is very sophisticated. It's a developed country. But if you really travel to the developing country, this is something you never seen or never heard. Because the city was designed for cars rather than for people. So when we that time was suggested outdoor dining or outdoor open space, the developers say, the weather here, you don't know Manila, the weather is so hot, the air is so polluted and it's so humid, who wants to sit outside? But actually because the outside environment was not designed for people, people have no choice. And then on the other hand, developer wants to push the people into their shopping center, provide them with air-conditioned environment, make sure they only spend their money inside the mall. But if you're really doing very simple process, give them shade, give them a nice environment, people would rather choose the public realm rather than in the air-conditioned environment. So I think come back to the design, as we said, it's really, are we really design our environment for the people or for cars or for other purposes? So, I think the answer is very simple. Just back to the basic and understand what's your culture, from the climate, from the people's behavior, and then really design for the people, and then you'll find a very, very positive result.